Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's special episode of the Daily Stand-Up. So without any further ado, let's get started. I know what you're thinking. She's way too beautiful to be you. You're right. It's my voice. It's her picture. But today is a special occasion. So I am extra happy that you're here because today is actually the 300th episode of the Daily Stand-Up Podcast. Woo! So we made it to 300. I had people telling me they didn't think I could do this every day for a week, much less 300 in a row. So I guess that's a compliment. I don't know. They were like, I don't know if you have it in you. I'm like, we'll come up with agile topics. We'll figure something out. But the thing I wanted to do today is I wanted to celebrate and thank all the people who helped make this possible. And I want to start by thanking our listeners, the people who listen to the podcast every single day. We have quite a number of subscribers at this point. You all rock, you kick butt. And without you, we couldn't do this. And between the topics they send in, the blog posts they want us to review, we always have content, which is great because most podcast episodes that go daily, we have such loyal listenership, which has been just wonderful for us. But the other piece that makes this possible are the people behind the scenes who help make everything tick. And today I have a very special guest, one of my favorite coaches on the planet, business agility coach Sara Bierman. Sara, how are you this morning?
I'm very well. Thank you, Lee, for inviting me and including me.
Oh, no worries. It's my pleasure. I'm glad you could be here because this is a celebration of all things good. And when I talk about all things good, I want to make sure I emphasize. So I'm going to tell you right now, Sara, in my opinion, and this is just one of my nicknames for her, I'm going to call her the Queen of Humility because I know she's not going to say these things about herself. So I'm going to say I'm going to get them out of the way. Then we're going to start talking. She might be, in my entire history of doing this since 2003, she might be one of the most humble premier coaches I've ever had. She goes in, she gets the job done, she figures out what companies need, and she has a knack for doing things her own way. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring her on because, I don't want to turn this into a marketing spiel, but I do want to know, Sara, what makes, you've had experience coaching and doing and working inside of companies as well as doing coaching for external companies. So my question for you is, what makes the AgileDad coaching experience so different in your opinion? What sets it apart from everything else? What can people expect? Because they can hear from me and they don't believe me. I want them to hear firsthand from you. What makes it different?
So from my experience and what I found to be effective is really, like you said, tailoring the needs of the client and listening to where they're at. We can tell them the best practices. We can tell them the industry standards. That may not be what they're ready for. Right. So it's really meeting the audience where they are and tailoring the content or, the coaching, the consulting, whatever it is to what they actually need help with.
I know what the first question is going to be.
Yeah.
So the first question is going to be, okay, there are 972,431 companies that offer Agile coaching, and each one of them has a litany of Agile coaches. And in most cases, it's, your coach is going to be Frank, and Frank is going to work 40 hours a week, and he's going to sit in that desk, and whether you need him or not, he's going to be there to answer all of your questions. I see you're already shaking your head no, right? This is what the traditional model has been for years. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of broke that mold. We took that away and said the right coach at the right time. And it's one of those things that's really interesting because we've had clients, and this is that transparency piece. We've had clients who've taken on one coach and said, I'm not sure that that's the right coach. I want to trade or I want to switch. And it's not that coach was bad. It's just from a cultural perspective, sometimes it works out better to have the right, the right person, the right match.
Sure.
And sometimes it's, I need a coach who specializes in finance, or I need a coach who specializes in marketing. I need a coach who specializes in writing the perfect greeting card. I don't know. It's just, they could have, exactly. But they could have a litany of requests. And one of the things that really separates us, in our opinion, or separates AgileDad from everyone else, in my eyes, is just the ability to do the matchmaker piece, where we really try to do what you said, to customize or tailor the needs to match what's going on. But there's something more. There's another question that everyone's going to ask right away. So I'm going to ask you the question because I know they're going to ask me. So the question is, what's a day in a life like? I mean, a lot of people are intimidated to say, I need a coach, right? Or they're intimidated to say, I don't know if I need a coach or not, and I don't want to pay a whole lot of money and invest a whole lot if I don't need somebody.
Right.
So what would an assessment look like, or what could someone expect if someone called AgileDad and said send Sara out? What would day one be like? And it doesn't need to be detailed, but what do you see happening? What's a typical engagement like?
So at first, there's kind of always the, I need to introduce myself. I kind of call it the prove it, that you have the cred, section of like, this
Yeah.
is my background. This is what I've been through. These are the industries or the type of applications I've worked on. So I kind of have that spiel that I go through with people. But
Okay,
I
so I'm going
really
to
want,
write this down. So step one is introduce battle scars.
yes,
Okay, keep
why
going.
I why I have the cred to be a coach.
Yep.
And then really it's I try to get understanding their needs and kind of get them talking about, where they're at, what goals or challenges they're facing, um, to understand more so that I can ask better questions to figure out, okay, with what I know, with what content I have, how can I help them, or what do I need, what gaps do I have, what do I need to work on and figure out so I can meet them there.
So step two is understand their needs.
Mhm.
Step three is ask better questions.
For
Okay.
sure. And
What's next?
prepare what is needed. If I need to tailor my presentation or, use different terminology, um, so just make it specific to help them versus me just trying to tell you, this is everything I know. That's not valuable. So I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm always trying to think of how can I provide the most value?
Yeah.
And that comes with my time too, because I have many things going on, many calendars to manage, so I have to be strategic, and maybe not going to stand up every day is helpful, but
Mhm.
going to their grooming session is going to be helpful.
That makes sense. I think the guys who wrote the books, the Agile for Dummies and Scrum for Dummies, I can't decide whether they love me or hate me, because I think I've mentioned their books enough time that I've probably sold at least a couple 100,000 copies. But I also feel like they hate me because one of the things you mentioned, when you come in with that real dogmatic approach and say, according to the book of who, here are the things that you should do. And when you come in with that approach, it's hard to get companies to engage, and companies aren't looking for that. They can read the book just as easy as you can, right? So the list that I wrote down, and I just want to make sure I got it. Number one is introduce your battle scars. Show them that you have experience, establish credibility, and make sure they understand that, hey, that you're the real deal. Number two is work to understand their needs. And that kind of ties into number three. Ask powerful questions, the right questions, ask better questions, figure out what's going on. But then I love the next two. Number four is take the time to prepare what's really needed so that people can extend themselves and figure out what's going on. And then number five, and this is going to be our top five list, by the way, this is what I'm going to list in the description. And number five is make and keep it personal, keep it real. Because I think that there are too many coaches out there that come in with a cookie cutter approach, and they like to just say, every client has the following interview with the following 17 questions, and we do a health agility health radar, and we turn in this mind map to you, and this is what. Yeah.
Mhm.
And while all those things are great tools, don't get me wrong, because I don't want to knock any other people who create these things. The book Agile for Dummies is great. The agility health radar is a nice tool if used correctly. But the problem that I see is that people who are looking for coaching, that's not what they're looking for, right? They're looking for the opposite of that, which is kind of interesting. They
Mhm.
want someone to come in and say, listen to me, take a look at what's going on, and give me your take on it so that we can move forward. um, it's interesting because in a previous workshop just recently, I had an opportunity to put together a presentation, and we're talking about the ABCs. And the A was align to the needs, the B was be prepared, and the C was coach with care. So it was just one of these things where, if you did those things, it was going to help align you to where you needed to be. But I want to run with rule number 5 you said here. You said make it personal. So I'm going to turn this into something personal for a couple of minutes. Knowing that there's 10 gazillion coaches out there, why is Sara Bierman the premier business agility coach? If I could choose somebody, and I'm going to throw it out there, if I could choose somebody less expensive, because there are less expensive coaches out there, my answer is you get what you pay for. And they don't understand that always for me. But what sets you apart? What makes you, there's a huge difference, in my opinion, between an agile coach and a premier agile business agility coach. They're two totally different things.
Mhm.
What do you bring to the table personally to make that experience different for AgileDad clients? What sets you apart? What makes you different? What makes you special?
So awkward question, obviously, for me because of what you said before, right? I tried
Yeah,
not
she's the queen of humility, I know, but I have to pull it out.
to, but I'm gonna kind of cop out and say that's really why. It's because it's not about me. I
Mhm.
try to have zero ego in this. I mean, I don't even feel like this is a job, to be honest. I
Right.
really enjoy helping people so much. And I try to spend maybe like 10 to 15 minutes of if I have an hour with somebody of presenting, and then the rest of the time working a working session with them and actually diving into their problems, because that's honestly where you provide the most value and where the learning and the training is the most valuable for them to go forward. I can send everybody a deck and great, they can reference it later, but if I actually help their stories or help their epics or help them with their roadmaps, that really leaves an impression. And like I said, that's not about me, that's me getting into their stuff.
And you've set another record, by the way. This is the first time that it's not a Friday episode that I just got a little choked up when you said that, because my eyes are a little watery. You're right. And this is something that, so for anyone who's listening right now, if you're looking for a world-class agile coach to come in and help, Sarah's not alone. Sarah's one of the best, don't get me wrong, but she's not alone. We have a whole list of coaches that go out and do this every day. But the difference is what you just heard. Every single time someone says, "How do I become a coach for AgileDad?" I'm like, "You probably don't." But but when I ask that question, I tell them the difference isn't, sure, I want to know that you know about Agile. Sure, I want to know that you know how to present yourself. Sure, I want to know that you know how to be articulate. But I think the key is what you just now described. It's the ability, and this isn't something that you can teach someone. It's the ability to take the time to understand and to figure out what the next move is, and to be right more than you're wrong. That's what it boils down to. And I think that organizations are really missing that right now. There's so many organizations, especially in this, I'm going to call it phase out of COVID, right? As we start to phase out of this COVID phase, what organizations are seeing is that they're kind of in this limbo where they have people who are working remote, some people in the office, some people changing. They're starting to re-engage with remote employees. I mean, there's lots of change that's going on right now, and I think that people are a little bit trepidatious about dealing with the change and understanding the change and trying to figure out whether or not to take the next step and whether to move forward. And I think that what you just now described is what so having been an executive leader, and if you've ever taken my class before, you've heard me say this line. I've been CEO, CIO, CTO, CXO. I bought and sold a whole bunch of companies. I've earned all my letters, even EIEIO, right? I mean, I've got the whole set, right? I've got a T-shirt for every occasion. What I tell people is, this is the advice that leaders need now. This is the type of coaching that leaders need. What the book says isn't good enough anymore. I say this all the time. It's that advice where someone can come in and say, this is your next best step. This is your next best play. And I can tell you now, and I'm not going to go into details with names, but I've sent Sarah to several of our largest accounts, our largest clients. And the experience, the comments, the feedback that I've received back has been fantastic. And, I'd love to say it's a reflection on AgileDad and AgileDad coaching, but I think it's more a reflection on the coaches and the way that they approach coaching. And, I don't want to turn this into a monologue because you're here and I want you to talk. So I want to focus on I have one more big question that I did jot down. One of the things that you've done is every Wednesday you have reserved time and you actually do the Daily Standup Podcast. So now you can see the beautiful face behind a beautiful voice. So my question is, what is your goal, or what is your ambition, or where do you see this Wednesday podcast going? I mean, I know you started out in one direction, you started talking about the force, and now you're kind of weaving back into some business things. Where do you see it going, and what do we have to get excited about? What's next from Sarah?
Honestly, I really want to write a book about being agile. I would love for you to be in. And I kind of have some topics and chapters, that I'm going to kind of explore in the next series of podcast episodes that I do. One of the realizations I've had coaching is that I've known Agile and I've been doing Agile my whole life before I even formally had Agile training. So that's kind of what I want to weave in. And I feel like the methodology of Agile and the framework of that is beneficial beyond business. And that's one thing I always try to do with my episodes is make it relatable to the audience I know that isn't doing the same work that we do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover,
If I told you how many moms we have that listen, how many people we have, and this is a scary one, how many people we have at correctional facilities that listen, how many people we have that, and it's true. And people are like, how, why? I'm like, well, they have access to it just like everybody else does, right? And people don't realize that. But I think that the message that I'm hoping this 300 episode, I wanted to highlight the whole episode in one word. I was trying to encapsulate it. I was trying to say, if I could take this 300 episode and I could put one word around it, what word would it be? And I think the word just came to me. So I'm writing the word down on a sticky note as we speak. And I think the shirt that I'm wearing is quite appropriate. Everything I've learned from Star Wars, right? Everything I know I've learned from Star Wars. The word that I came up with, you want to guess?
No, I don't know. Hope. Oh, yeah.
I think hope is the word of the day.
Yeah.
And the reason why I chose the word hope is because we're in that phase right now, whether it's helping loved ones overcome whatever things they're facing, whatever challenges they're facing, whether it's transitioning with challenges at work. We have a few people that we're really close to right now that are having really big challenges at their job, whether it's transitioning from, being stuck in an environment where you couldn't deliver things to having greater business agility, or whether it's family and we're just trying to get back into a normal groove. We've been in lockdown so long, people getting back into a normal groove. I think hope is the message. And I think that, I hope, no pun intended, that this Daily Stand-Up Podcast is an outlet for people. It's a way for them to have hope. It's a way for them to renew hope. It's a way for them to re-energize and to get what they need. And I can't help but say, Sarah, that you've been such a great part of that. So thank you for that. And thanks for being an amazing coach. Thanks for being awesome. Yeah, thanks for doing those things. Because I really do think that people like you are the reason why I continue to do this, because I can see that it brings hope to others. And that's the gas, the fuel that lights my fire. And that's what gets me going. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was kind of different. It didn't flow exactly the way I wanted, but that's okay. We got a lot of information in and we got to hear from Sara. And like I said, Sarah's amazing. And I'll say this too, she's got a little bit of free time. So if your company is looking for a strong agile coach, you can even ask for her by name and I'll see what I can do. I might be able to swindle it in there. It's not going to be easy, but we'll see what happens. So as always, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, let us know. If you want to copy the book that Sarah's going to write, let me know. If if you have something that you need from us, we'd love to help you with training, coaching, any agile needs you have. We're here for you. Happy 300th. Happy Monday. I hope you have an amazing week. This is just an incredible, incredible opportunity and an incredible week. Sara, thanks for all you do. Thanks for being amazing. Do you have a closing thought for everybody? I'm going to let you exit today. Do you have a closing thought for anybody? Anything that you need to tell them? Anything that they need to know?
No, I mean, I always just kind of try to end my episodes with, keep focused, keep it simple, and you'll be successful. It's that simple.
I couldn't have said it any better. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.